The myth of Hyperborea, a legendary land described in ancient Greek mythology. It evokes imagery of a utopian paradise existing far to the north, beyond the reach of the icy winds of Boreas, often depicted as a land of eternal spring, bathed in perpetual sunlight, and home to a peaceful, advanced rest. Hyperborea has fascinated thinkers and explorers of this idea for centuries. While its existence remains purely speculative, modern reinterpretations of the Hyperborean myth tie it to theories of lost continents and catastrophic global events, including the idea of a global mudflood. Could Hyperborea have been a vast continent that sank beneath the waves, triggering a worldwide deluge of mud and sediment? Maybe, just maybe. The origins of Hyperborea lie in Greek mythology, where it is described as a land blessed by perpetual sunlight, abundant resources, and an ideal climate. The Hyperboreans, its inhabitants, were believed to be a race of long-lived, peaceful beings who worshipped Apollo and lived in harmony with nature. Writers like Herodotus and Pindar placed Hyperborea far beyond the known northern regions, possibly near the Arctic Circle or beyond North Wind. In ancient Greek thought, Hyperborea symbolised an untouched paradise, embodying humanity's yearning for a perfect world. Over time, however, the myth evolved. Speculations grew about whether Hyperborea might represent an actual geographical location, possibly a lost continent that existed during a prehistoric epoch. In modern reinterpretations, Hyperborea is often imagined as a vast landmass that once spanned the northern Atlantic and Arctic regions. Some theorists connect it to other mythical lost lands such as Atlantis or Lemuria, and they propose that it was an advanced civilization that existed before recorded history. This lost land, according to these ideas, may have succumbed to cataclysmic events, leading to its disappearance. The possibility of Hyperborea sinking beneath the waves ties into theories of rapid geographic changes such as pole shifts, tectonic activity, or rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age. These catastrophic events could have caused massive flooding, submerging coastal regions, and destroying any civilizations that might have existed there. While mainstream science provides no evidence for Hyperborea's existence, some researchers have pointed out over the years that some glacial and geological changes took place during the Pleistocene epoch, and they point this out as potential explanations for why large landmasses may have disappeared. The global mudflood theory is a relatively modern concept that has gained traction in alternative history circles. Proponents claim that a worldwide deluge of mud buried ancient cities, wiping out civilizations and resetting history. According to this theory, architectural anomalies such as partially buried buildings or substructures are evidence of a massive, unexplained event. If Hyperborea was a vast continent that sank, then its disappearance could theoretically trigger such a catastrophic event. A rapid shift in tectonic plates, or the collapse of ice sheets, could displace vast amounts of water and sediment, leading to flooding and the deposition of mud over large areas. This scenario aligns with the idea that ancient civilizations, ancient cities, were buried under the mud and forgotten about. Mainstream science says no. Mainstream science explains the phenomenon of buried structures through gradual geological processes such as sedimentation, erosion, and urban development over many centuries. According to them, there is no clear-cut evidence to support the notion of a sudden, worldwide mudflood linked to a lost continent like Hyperborea. The idea of Hyperborea causing a global mudflood when it sank beneath the waves is an intriguing one, but it faces significant challenges. First, there is no concrete evidence for the existence of Hyperborea as a physical landmass, let alone as a continent capable of triggering such a catastrophic event. Secondly, geological science has yet to uncover evidence of a single global flood of mud or sediment that could be linked to the sudden disappearance of a landmass. Well, there is the Usalo Horizon. The Usalo Horizon is clear evidence of a global catastrophe, possibly the Squatterman event. But scientists attribute changes in Earth's geography and climate to gradual processes, such as glacial melting, volcanic activity, and tectonic shifts, rather than a sudden, dramatic event. The end of the last ice age, for example, saw rising sea levels submerge large areas of land, such as the Doggerland region in the North Sea, but this occurred over millennia rather than in a single cataclysmic moment. Despite the lack of evidence for its physical existence, Hyperborea continues to capture the imagination of those who seek out the answers to Earth's mysteries. It serves as a symbol of humanity's desire to understand lost civilizations and unexplored regions of the past. While the connection between Hyperborea and a global mudflood remains speculative, it reflects an enduring fascination with the possibility of a forgotten epoch and cataclysmic event that may have shaped humanity's history. Ultimately, Hyperborea occupies a space between mythology and speculative history. Whether it was a real place or a metaphor for perfection and harmony, its story challenges us to consider the fragility of civilizations and the power of the natural world. If nothing else, the myth of Hyperborea inspires us to continue exploring, questioning, and imagining what lies beneath the waves of history. The strange place that is Hyperborea, sitting in the embers of history, awaiting reignition of its historical knowledge. A notable fact about Hyperborea is that it was described in Greek mythology as a land of eternal spring, located far to the north, beyond the home of Boreas, the god of the north wind. The Hyperboreans were believed to be the blessed, long-lived people who lived in harmony and were devoted to the worship of the sun god Apollo.